Hey, Bitcoin is Hard listeners, 3 quick announcements and then we'll get you into this episode. Tax Day is coming up and it's actually super relevant to this episode because we have Austin Woodward, founder of TaxBit, on here, and we have a really tight 30 minutes about just some great wealth accumulation strategies that we went into. Number 2, we just launched on Android. So if you go to android.choiceapp.io, you can be among the first Choice App users to use our Android mobile app. And then number 3, Blinko Miami is coming up. And so if you are in Miami for the Bitcoin 2022 conference, definitely look out for the tie-dye Choice crew and come say hi. And I hope to see you there. Hope you enjoy this episode. Reach out on Twitter anytime. Thank you so much again to Danica for suggesting Austin as a guest. And so if you have a great guest that you'd love to hear me talk to, tweet him my way. Hey everyone, welcome back to Bitcoin is Hard. This is a Choice App production about Bitcoin and personal finance. I'm your host, Brian Harrington. Today, our guest is Austin Woodward, CEO and co-founder of TaxBit. And want to give a giant shout out off the top right now to Danica, Choice podcast listener Danica, and she's also a TaxBit user. She tagged Austin and I together on Twitter, and so we're thankful for that. And I'm thankful to have a few minutes with Austin today. So Austin, hey man, happy Monday. How are you?
Happy Monday, Brian. Excited to be here.
Love it. Love it. So, okay, for the audience, Austin has a great video back from June of last year on just kind of the background on TaxBit and the background for him personally. And it's out on Pomp's YouTube channel. And so if you want the background to just kind of TaxBit as a company and Austin as a founder, there's really great information in that episode. And I'm so excited about what I learned in that episode that I'm just going to fast forward exactly to the personal finance advice and the personal just like tax loss harvesting and like wealth automation stuff that I want to get into because I think that'll be most valuable for you as the listener. But so go to that episode, the Pomp episode, for the backstory. And so, Austin, tell me if I have this right. Like, I was coming to this conversation of, okay, TaxBit, they're like the classic line, right? Oh, the TurboTax of crypto or whatever, right? But that's not it at all. TaxBit is wealth automation software, and I'm like fired up about that. And so tell us that. What does that mean, wealth automation software?
You're right on, Brian. So TurboTax is your classic, enter this line from your 1099 here, enter this line from your W-2 here, your K-1 here, and then you have this, anxiety-filled moment of, what do I owe? And it's this once-a-year process where it's like, oh, shit, hopefully I didn't get into trouble, and hopefully I have enough money set aside. Well, TaxBit really is thinking about things proactively around the year, and especially when it comes to cryptocurrency, which is a voluminous asset class. It's used for so many things. How can we provide real-time insights and intelligence so you can actually have the forethought and knowledge to go and make taxed and optimized intelligent decisions beforehand? And so I think we'll talk a lot about what those examples look like here throughout the recording, but cryptocurrency has so much utility now, and there's more and more use cases introduced almost every week. And so how can we captivate and take advantage of those use cases with knowledge as to what's my cost basis? If I do this, what's the tax impact? So you're starting to forecast and plan before you actually get yourself into trouble.
Yeah. So I now put TaxBit in the same category then as, want to know why this is exciting? It feels like Peloton. It feels like 8 Sleep. It feels like my toothbrush that like Bluetooth tells me how many minutes I've been brushing every day. And then I'm able to make like better decisions. Or there's everyone I've been following different like continuous glucose monitoring accounts that like you put it on you and it like tells you, it helps you make better eating decisions based on like the watching the graph on the screen. And like so here's Austin. For 2022 I made this personal goal with me and my wife that like I don't want to hold dollars anymore. Bitcoin is my base money. Like the case for holding dollars at all, even for a few days, in my opinion, is going way, way down. And it's twofold. One, the like macroeconomics and just inflation and purchasing power decline and all the normal stuff that we know about is all happening. But number 2, it's because of people like you and software being created that's helping us automate around the bureaucracy of using Bitcoin as the base money. So yeah, just like keep going on that. And what's on top of your brain that you want to continue to just say in that vein?
We could talk about this for days, Brian, but actually in your wife instance, you're not alone here. This isn't all the way down to individuals thinking this way. In the last couple of weeks, TaxBit's been approached because our software services, not just everyday individuals, but predominantly, large businesses and brokerages. We've been approached by multiple Fortune 500 companies saying, hey, our board, in light of what's happening with Ukraine and Russia, they want to put X% of our balance sheet in Bitcoin for nothing else than a hedge against government sanctioned currencies, and how volatile and how fragile they can be at one person's decision to do something, right, that the world doesn't agree with or whatever. And so from that point forward, we're starting to see, okay, once these big companies have Bitcoin on their balance sheet, now they're realizing, well, there's a lot of use cases here and there's a lot of utility. I can now easily go and get into the NFT space. I can easily go and transmit things cross border in a lot, less time with less fees. And so I think we're just at the beginning and the precipice of all the utility, and I think just common benefits of having definitely a good sized portion, if not all, of your value in crypto.
How do you personally approach is Bitcoin an asset or a currency kind of question?
Yeah, so it definitely, and the sad reality of it is it is crypto property right now. Satoshi or someone got the name wrong. It's not cryptocurrency from an IRS viewpoint, or about 90% of the world's countries from a tax standpoint. And so what that means, though, that doesn't mean that it can't be used as a currency vehicle. Technology can actually enable and propel property being used as a currency in a more tax efficient manner than even currency is used. And so really, imagine you have your crypto backed debit card, you're going to go buy a cup of coffee, and you check your mobile app right before and say, are any of my assets in an unrealized loss position? If so, I can go and swipe, and automatically with technology, it will take those assets and those lots, harvest you a loss that's going to increase your tax refund, and then you can just go and repurchase your position back into crypto. So you're still maintaining long-term appreciation and wealth. Well, let's take that same scenario. Imagine you're about to go purchase that cup of coffee. All of your assets you've been hodling, they're in the green, like you're in an unrealized short-term position. You don't want to harvest a loss, like you don't want to pay a tax. Well, do you have stable coins in your portfolio? If so, maybe that's the time to say, yep, I want to maintain my positions for the long term. I'm in the green. I'm going to go and use a stable coin. So there's so many things that you can do using property that you actually can't from a currency standpoint. And a lot of times it's actually going to shrink your purchase power, your price, or enhance your purchase power, because your $5 cup of coffee is really $4 net of tax. That's being delivered to you. Yep.
Two things on that. I want to talk about the property designation as opposed to security. And then I also want to talk about first in, first out versus last in, first out on when you are in that game position. So first, through your interview with Pomp, I didn't realize how much of a corner they backed themselves into when it was designated property instead of a security. I'd always thought about currency versus property, but I hadn't ever really thought about property versus security. And you did a great job talking about how wash sale rules apply to securities, but they don't apply to property. Can you expound on that?
Yeah, that's right. So the wash sale rule, for those that haven't heard that term, it states when you purchase a security and dispose of it at a loss, you cannot repurchase that security. Take Apple stock. You bought it for $1,000, sold it at $900. You book $100 loss. You cannot rebuy Apple for 30 days. Otherwise, kind of that wash would become disallowed. The IRS views it as, oh, there's no economic substance behind this transaction. You're just doing it for an artificial tax benefit. Well, when the IRS declared crypto to be property currently as written in law doesn't fall under the same wash sale 30-day wait period stipulations. And so there is this concept where as long as your transaction has substance to it, which in crypto so many transactions do because there's fees and there's gas prices and all these other things that, yes, and prices are more volatile. You can prove, no, I was exposed here, albeit for an indefinite amount of time. you can actually repurchase your position. And that's a kind of a personal choice as to what that wait period is, but definitely doesn't have to be 30 days. And you can really show a really strong use case of, yes, I was susceptible to market prices. And so that brings a huge benefit. We're going back to my example, buy Bitcoin at 1,000, sell at 900, book the $100 loss, increase that tax refund, repurchase at or around about that 900 price. And now you're, set up to hodl for the long term. And you kind of get that tax benefit to you immediately.
Yep. Yeah. Okay. So say I'm 100% of my paychecks are being deposited into Bitcoin on every other Friday. And then I have a Bitcoin just checking account. And then there's 5 transactions a month that come out of that Bitcoin checking account. It's 1 paying off my credit card, 1 paying off my mortgage, and then the 3 bills that require ACH payments that don't allow me to put it on the credit card, right? So those 5 transactions a month, your software, say I'm in will your software, I understand the harvesting the loss, but then if I'm in the green on all of them, then what's the best thing to do for those transactions?
Yeah, so if you're in the green on everything, then you're going to want to reduce the gain as much as you can. And there's ways to do that. The IRS, as well as most countries, have this concept of a holding period, where if you hold an asset or a lot for 365 days or longer, your tax rate could range from 0 to 20%. It's a much more preferential compared to the short-term rate. And so if you have any of those lots, obviously you're going to want to use those first. If you don't, and everything is short-term, then you want to use the short-term lots that have the highest cost basis. And so this is getting into your question about FIFO and LIFO. And for those audience viewers, now we're talking cost basis assignment methodology. And so when Brian here goes to go pay off his, mortgage, or sorry, not just make a mortgage payment, which lots does he use? He's getting, bi-weekly or bi-monthly deposits into his checking account or into his wallet with Bitcoin. Which of those lots does he want to apply? Well, there is this misconception that you have to use FIFO or LIFO, meaning chronologically assigning lots. The IRS has specified that you can use what's called specific lot identification. You, as a taxpayer and individual, can actually choose, as long as you have unique transaction IDs and there's other record-keeping requirements that software such as TaxBit automates on the background to be able to prove to the IRS that, yes, you made this decision and assigned this lot to that. So what that's allowing us to do then as crypto users is go and pick the highest lots that are in short-term gain positions, assuming there's no losses there to go and harvest. And now we're minimizing taxes on every use case as opposed to owing taxes.
What I loved that you said in the Pomp interview also, as far as the roadmap for TaxBit, is currently you can go sign up as an individual, but you envision a future where just you're in all the apps that we're already using like day to day. Is that still, am I saying that correctly? And is that still kind of your vision?
Yeah, absolutely. As you bring that up here, I'll actually show you. This is just like a test account on Venmo where you can see, here's my total return position. It updates every 3 seconds. You can drill in asset by asset and start to see your cost basis on various lots, performance over time. And so that's exactly our vision, is you have all of this information embedded within the brokerage's applications that you're using day to day.
Yeah. Because no, man, this is what made me, my brain in 2022 is still just climbing over the fact that basically that here's how I'll say it. The freedom loving contingent of like Bitcoiners and the kind of just suits like of Bitcoiners, I believe are so much on the same page. Like I truly actually believe that it's just beautiful. Like, I don't know, there's no other way to say it, because a former like Bitcoiner vibe would have been to just super like bang on you and just be like, dude, like, why are you making this? Like, why are you helping them? Like that kind of stuff. And I have that in me of like the anti-establishment, like loving, and for sure. But what I love about software and what I've learned about it recently, my brain has gone there of like, the code lines can be written faster than the bureaucracy lines can be written. Like, it doesn't have to be this giant, like, combative thing. Like the most wealthy people in the world and the most like influential people in the world kind of just, they take what happens like of our local leaders like as it is, and they make decisions off of their decisions. And so I see software like yours now in a brand new light of just, I appreciate that there's people thinking about tools to reduce complexity and help others like honestly preserve their wealth. Like you're creating strategies to allow someone to use Bitcoin as their base currency, and they will literally end up wealthier at the end of the year than had they kept using like some dollars and some Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, that's right on, Brian. And really, that's our place in the market, is to just develop technology that takes the hindrance and burden off of tax reporting and do it in a way that preserves after tax dollars. I think in society, if you go to a wealth manager, everything is like talked about before tax, and tax is this afterthought that you go and think about in March of every year, and then you realize, well, crap, tax is like so much of my net worth. If your average tax rate, call it, I don't know what the average in America, I'm making this up, say it's 15%. Well, translate that to working days. That means that you're
Yes.
working about a month of every year just to pay a tax bill. So
Yep.
if we can minimize that rate and save money, now you're actually getting not just wealth back, but time back, and being able to kind of contribute value to that. And so that's really where TaxBit sits, is, hey, we hear you. We I'm a CPA, and I hear you as well on, yeah, taxes are evil, taxes are theft. Like, I understand that viewpoint. We're not turning over information to the IRS. We're just here to build compliance software so Bitcoin can continue to propel and use cases can continue to exist in the mainstream.
Another thesis that I've been working on too is in the same way that kind of real estate investors are receive like very preferential treatment in the United States, like as a class of just individuals. I'm kind of believe that Bitcoiners are going to also become that influential and kind of receive that level of preferential treatment. Do you have any insight on that, or like, do you foresee Bitcoiners like having influence with the ability to kind of just shape the future?
100%. I definitely, I think this has taken off very quickly. We're talking about a quicker adoption than the pace of the internet, even in the early 90s. And so when you have a community and a voice that's strong, I can tell you TaxBit works with regulators. I preface, we don't ever hand information over to them, but they will, come to us and engage us for various data analysis and other activities. And so, yes, they are taking this super seriously, and the voice of the community and how much momentum we have behind this, we're bullish that we can, bridge the gap where it's not regulators on one side, crypto on the other side, and it turns into this tension war where we can actually start to meet somewhere in the middle and think through logical regulation that doesn't hinder Bitcoin's acceptance and adoption.
What do you think of? What's your opinion on like rumblings about a de minimis tax exemption, or do you think that's realistic, or
Yeah.
what would the impact of that be?
Yeah, absolutely. This is, I think, where we start, right? We would love to see this. Well, are we ever going to get the IRS and other countries to say Bitcoin's a currency, it's not taxable, it's full, any appreciation, like, just ignore? I personally don't believe that, only because if you do that for Bitcoin, now you're going to have to do it for equities and real estate and for commodities and all these other asset classes. And so it opens up this wild door. But can we get to, well, Bitcoin is used as a currency as well, crypto in general. Is there a de minimis? All right, if I have less than $100 gain, if I swipe something for a coffee, that's just so small. That's just tax free. Just ignore it. I do think that there is a world in the future where we can get there. I think there is still this tracking component of that. Well, how do you prove as a taxpayer it was de minimis? And software such as TaxBit can really automate and enable that. So I think some of the regulators are kind of grasping their head around, does this alleviate burden at all if you still have to go through the math of tracking it? Maybe not, but it definitely puts more to your pocketbook on the bottom line, and you're thinking about it less. So I do see a world where we can get the de minimis exemption on certain. I
Yep,
won't put a dollar threshold on
for
what
sure,
that looks like, but who
for
knows?
sure. No, and so if and when that happens, and then you just feed in that new rule into the software, and then boom, like it's again like creating that much more wealth for everyone that's like using it to track their transactions.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. What, because you know this deeper than so many people and deeper than I ever will and all this stuff. And you understand the software side and you're on the phone with just the other side as well. How, can you give us insight into your own personal finances at any level, or just the way that you see like Bitcoin, and is it taking over a larger portion of your personal finances, or how do you think about just your day to day when you
Yeah,
receive like your paycheck?
yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind, I mean, my whole life's work in TaxBit is, in crypto as well. So
Mhm.
I'm largely vested in here just through the business side as well. I dollar cost average into cryptocurrency every single month. I haven't gone to the extreme yet. Maybe I should have my entire paycheck, but definitely a certain sizable portion of, my balance sheet goes in there every month. And I'm more of your hodler, right? Like I'm just like not phased by the market dips and the ebbs and flows. I've been doing this now since 2016. I've been through a lot of these cyclical cycles. So largely, there's a lot of days where I don't even check prices because it's just like sometimes what you don't know, I'm a believer in the long term. And so I always recommend that. I think most, without giving any sort of tax or financial advice, you make your own decisions. But I do think that that's a sound investment strategy is don't go and take X percent of your net worth and buy in at one time. Really do that more linearly and ratably over time, because then you get to capture different price points, and then just different realities of what Bitcoin is doing.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I appreciate how personable like you are. Again, I want to say that too off of the Pomp interview.
Thanks.
It's just awesome. Like I would love to see you just out on like more podcasts. So
Well,
thank you
that's
for talking to us today.
and likewise, Brian, I think the crypto community is special in that regard. And it's almost like this, wag me, we all gonna make it. There is like
Yeah,
this concept of family and unity
yeah,
to some degree. Like we're all out trying to drive adoption to the biggest financial disruption in our entire lifetimes. And it has already become that. And it's only going to propel and become more and more that. And there is this concept of we have each other's back and we're rah-rahing for each other,
yeah.
and we're going to make it, right? And that's what's really cool. And it's great to see shows like this that's really just bringing education to the masses.
And the reason why that came to mind was because I just think there's a lot of important conversations like happening in boardrooms right now. Like with like and what I mean by that is with McDonald's, Starbucks talk about like running Bitcoin payment processors, even in El Salvador, that's fine. Like someone's running those numbers and going to look at quarter on quarter what happened on here, what happened here before the quarter before it. And I believe and see a path to that, then green lighting the like Bitcoin payment processors in the US. It's rumored that like Square and Block is gonna add lightning payments to all of those barbershops and all of those cafes and all of that stuff. I'm really big on circular economy. Like I got restaurants here like on BTC Pay server, and just our meetup goes to them and that all that sort of stuff. And so I appreciated that call out also on your interview with Pomp of you seeing like the Bitcoin as a currency side and Bitcoin for payment side. And it's going to be like you have developed enough influence to where when McDonald's chooses to do that, you're gonna be on the roster of people that they call. Like you
Oh
will
yeah.
be. Like they're gonna call you and they're gonna figure out what does this guy know and how can he help or not help us. And
Yeah.
that's why it's just like I appreciate like you picking up that phone and being an advocate like for just what
Yeah.
Bitcoiners and everyone thinks.
That's exactly right, Brian. And we're in the room on all those discussions. Like I said, we service Fortune 500 clients today because they need accounting and tax software on the background to keep track of all of this. Like that
Yeah,
is for a large piece here, years, the tail has been wagging the dog on, well, we can't actually do this from a corporate SEC Big Four level reporting standpoint because crypto's property and there's
yeah,
different characteristics that we've never dealt with before. And so that's where TaxBit plugs and plays software in to say, no, accounting and tax should never wag the dog, and we should be able to use currency, utility, property, how we deem. And
yeah.
so it's really exciting. And Brian, even since the last time when we talked on Pomp, I think it was more of this speculation of will
Right.
crypto really ever reach payment mainstream status? Well, in the last month, what have we seen? We've seen Stripe, one of the largest
Mm-hmm.
payment processors in the world, come out and say, yes, like we are all in on crypto. Here's our products,
Yep.
with an announcement with FTX and others. We've seen checkout.com com. We've seen Apple tap to pay saying, yep, now, crypto-backed debit cards are going to be able to seamlessly transmit at the beam of a payment. And so much is happening. And that's what's so cool to be part of this industry. This isn't like year by year. This is like month by month, where just groundbreaking announcements and utility is coming to the space.
What do you think? Let me get your perspective on one more thing. Then I'm going to ask you our final question and we'll wrap up. I'm going to make a legacy system analogy. So if I'm paying an independent contractor through Zelle or through Venmo or through Cash App, and I'm going to use dollars and then make the legacy comparison. If I'm paying them with these apps, those transactions are on paper now. And so the independent contractor has to choose their own decisions, but those transactions are on paper. If I'm paying an independent contractor that comes to my house and does work, and then I pay them with cash bills, then that's like there's a different category of both of those transactions that the independent contractor can make decisions on. In Bitcoin, in the crypto parallel system, I'm kind of beginning to see the same thing happen, where so my checking account apps where my direct deposit is coming into and my expenses are going out of, with all of the TaxBit information and all of the wealth automation, well-oiled machine running, is there. And then my Lightning wallet backed by my own node. And then if we want to go in a couple in DeFi and everything going on in this category also, you understand what I'm saying about the parallel paths. Do you have any thoughts, or how would you frame both of those systems working together or not compatible?
Yeah, for sure. You're never going to hear a CPA say, yeah, if you use cash or use crypto, it's anonymous and you're kind of escaping taxes either. Technically, if you pay your babysitter with cash or set her up through, a direct deposit, it is the same to them. It's taxable income, and Bitcoin's the same as well, where you pay someone for a good or a service, that will be income to them on that receipt. The tracking mechanisms and how it all eventually gets flown back up to the IRS varies, right? There's this 1099 MISC or NEC form, non-employee employee compensation, that gets issued to anyone that you pay $600 or more, and it's your responsibility to give them that form. Otherwise, there's a $550 fine to you if you fail to do so. And so those same principles hold true, whether it's crypto, it's cash, direct deposit, or however you're paying. And so, yeah, that's kind of the spirit of the law there and letter of the law.
Yep. Perfect. I appreciate you answering that one.
Where the difference comes in, though, is if you pay with crypto and you're harvesting losses along the way, the net payment to these end contractors could be after tax less than it would be if you used fiat currency. And then the inverse could also be true if you're in a gain on all of your assets. It could be more, and that's where I think tax optimized trading and visibility using software really kind of revolutionizes what you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Totally agree. Okay, Austin, the question we try to ask every guest on the show is, what's a Bitcoin product or service that doesn't exist yet that you want and would use?
Oh man, I've been waiting for, and this is, I think, a little bit more nuanced at the B2B level, but shareholder registries. They're called capitalization tables. Any of you that own equities and get paid out dividends, and you're a shareholder, and you get all these communications of, hey, we're having a shareholder meeting, and you're invited to attend. And since you're a shareholder, you can cast your vote. And then there's these proxy statements and these complicated forms. Well, I'm willing to bet that no one on this line has actually ever casted a vote or attended a meeting. I know I haven't, and I'm a finance nerd. Well, what will blockchain do to shareholder registries, where now you are able to cast votes instantaneously from your phone, receive dividends in tokens without any paperwork, and it's all there on the blockchain in the smart contract? You can go to a registry and see, oh yeah, Apple as an entity, here is my individual wallet ID that owns this percent, and it's all there and trustless and intermediaryless. I think that is going to be a product that wins big at some level, and I'm excited to take part in that.
Yeah. What I love about that is, even as what I love about that, and what I don't understand stock dividends, to be honest. I don't understand why companies pay them, and I don't understand the kind of FIRE movement guys that talk about building my dividend portfolio and stuff like that. It makes sense, and I want to understand it, but I can't really understand why my number on the screen can't, but whereas when you deposit Bitcoin into a like liquidity pool, it
Yep.
shows you here's how much you're being paid out like per thing. And then apparently and they're working on it, but apparently then the smart contract will tell you this is how much you're being paid and this is how it's varying. And then you have that thing on. Stocks don't have that. And it just feels like this random black box thing. And so, yeah, I think that's a great answer.
I think the convergence of tokenized cryptocurrencies and equities and real estate are all kind of converging in some degree. And a lot of those cool properties that the blockchain offers will be translatable to other asset classes. So yeah, that's a great example and really piggybacked well on what I'm excited to see in the future.
Yeah, perfect. All right, man. Yeah, tell us your Twitter handle or where people can get in contact with you and any closing thoughts.
Yeah, Twitter handle is Austin R. Woodward. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. As for your personal taxes, guess what? TaxBit is a free service for most users. We have this whole TaxBit network. There's over 30 of the largest crypto exchanges and even DeFi protocols part of that. You can go log in, create a free account, get your forms for free. And we have a live chat icon on our website where if you want to get into the nitty-gritty about your personal situation and taxes, we're happy to help. We have dozens of CPAs and attorneys and technology specialists that are around the clock this time of year. So yeah, get in touch.
Love it, man. Thanks so much for your time today.
Likewise, Brian. Keep up the great work.
Hey all, this is Brian. You can reach me on Twitter at Brain Harrington. Shoot me a DM with any feedback from today's episode. This has been a Choice App production. Bitcoin is becoming centric to personal finance, and we want to help you learn how to better engage with Bitcoin financial services. None of this is financial advice and is for education and entertainment only.